Hi, I'm Diana Faris with AMACO. I coordinate our educational outreach program, and normally I travel and teach workshops and participate in art education conferences. But today I'm coming to you from Indianapolis along with Kathy, who's in Florida. We will be presenting the Matisse Underglaze Applique project using AMACO velvet underglazes and teacher's palette light glaze.
I'm Kathy Skaggs, and I work with Diana at AMACO. And I was a classroom art teacher for over 30 years. And I want to show you a great project we have for you today using casting slip, velvet underglazes, and TPL glazes. I think you're really going to like it. So let's get started. We're going to be making our own transfer paper with velvet underglazes and transferring that onto clay slab. Let me show you how it's done. The first thing we're going to do is gather our materials. You need some newsprint. Pretty much any newsprint will do. Paper plates. I like the Chinette paper plates because they're firm and they're not covered with wax, so the clay won't stick. You need some plastic wrap, a fettling knife or something to cut the clay, a pin tool or bamboo skewer, a pair of scissors, something to smooth the clay, which could be a rubber rib or a plastic gift card, soft paintbrush, and some type of a wooden roller or a brayer. One of the things we're going to be using is casting slip. Casting slip is pretty important in this project because we're going to be applying it to the paper and we need a speedy dry. If you use regular slip, it will work, but it won't work so well in the classroom because it takes a long time to dry. So you can select between high fire casting slip and low fire casting slip. Now, you can absolutely match the firing that you're doing using low fire casting slip for low fire, things like that. But really, either one of the casting slips, if you're doing low fire, will work. The other thing we're going to be using is velvet underglazes. These are a great product because they're colored in a way that they'll match what's in the jar to the fired product. They're clay-based, which means they're very opaque, which works good in this project. Now, we're going to take the velvet underglazes and we're going to make our transfer paper. So you're going to shake the velvet underglaze. We're going to use a soft paintbrush and we're going to apply one heavy coat onto the newsprint. You want to do it as evenly as you can. It's not overly critical. And this will need to be done and then it will need to dry. So you might want to spend one whole class period with students just painting the newsprint. Keep in mind the colors that you want to use. If you're working with Matisse as an inspiration, you might want to use a lot of yellows and blacks and reds that he used, or whichever colors that you want. Now, if you can't make up your mind, underglazes mix fabulously. So here we're just going to put some different underglazes on there and we're going to do a little finger painting and smear the colors together. This is a good time to teach a little color theory with this project. Now our papers are all dry. We're going to use the scissors and we're going to start cutting up our shapes. You can teach organic shapes versus geometric shapes. You can talk about color theory. If you're working with younger kids, we're going to use 3 different shape colors, but if you're working with younger kids, you could use maybe only 2 overlaps of color. And keep the scraps because the scraps will make some great patterns. And this is such a great project because you get a chance to move all the parts around. So if you don't have what you like, the kids can really start to assemble the parts and move them, and you can use it as a teachable moment to go in there and help them move the parts to get an interesting design. Now, we're going to move these parts. You may want to have kids take a cell phone picture of the arrangement. Does it have to match in the final product? No. But if you need it for reference, you may want to consider that as an option. Now, we're going to take our slab and we're going to take our Chinette plate and we want to make sure that our slab is going to be big enough. Once we've done that, we want to take a gift card or a rubber scraper and we want to smooth out the slab. It's like printmaking. You want to start with a really nice, smooth surface. Now you're ready to get your first layer of colored paper to lay down. Now you want to start with the background first. So we're starting with these brightly colored yellow squares. We're going to take a wide, soft brush and the casting slip, and we're going to paint this on the underglaze. This is what's important. The casting slip will dry and be ready to transfer in about 10 to 15 minutes. Regular slip would take about a half hour when the kids have long had to leave to go to their next class. So casting slip is perfect. We're going to paint one nice heavy coat on there, and we're going to let it become leather hard. You'll be able to tell that's happened because the pieces will have a matte finish. They need to be used right at this moment. This is a little time sensitive, so plan that when you're doing your class planning. We're going to take our shapes, we're going to lay them face down somewhere on our slab. And I usually make my design, rather large so that I don't have to worry about how it's arranged on that final product. So I'm not going to overlap any of the shapes. I'm going to lay them down so that they'll attach to the surface. It's kind of a set it and forget it. You can't pick them up and rearrange them. Then you're going to take a roller and you're going to press these flat to the surface. And you want to make sure everything's really well attached. And you can see that it has some dry and wet areas on the newsprint. If by chance they don't attach, you can take a damp sponge and moisten the back of the newsprint to get them to transfer. So here we're going to pull the pieces off, and you can see that the underglaze has deposited onto the soft slab. Again, the slab has got to be fresh and moist for this transfer to happen. We're going to take our next set of shapes and add them. You'll notice I didn't paint all the shapes at one time because timing will become a problem. So you might have to do one set of shapes like the ones we just did the first class, cover up the slab tightly with plastic on the top and bottom, and return to it for the next class to do these. So now we've brushed them with the underglaze, with the casting slip, and we're going to lay these on top of our other shapes. Again, a set it and forget it, but the velvet underglazes work great for this because since they're a clay-based colorant, they really overlap. If you have a little extra casting slip on there, you can see I just kind of removed it from the newsprint, and we're going to overlap that onto those squares. We're going to need to roll this, but we don't want to mess up our design. So we're going to take some plastic wrap and lay that down on the surface and then roll it with the wooden brayer. We want to really get those new pieces attached well. You don't want to add water to get them to attach, but sometimes if they're a little stubborn, you can moisten with a damp sponge, but you have to be careful to only moisten on the newsprint, not onto those other shapes. So we're going to make sure that this is well attached. We're going to remove the plastic and we're going to remove our shapes. Some people ask me, can you use these shapes again? No. It's a one-time use because everything, all that red that I painted on the slit on the newsprint has now transferred to the clay slab. So now we're going to put the last set of pieces down. Again, it's a set it and forget it. You want to lay them down so that you can get the arrangement that you like. It doesn't matter if it matched your first arrangement. Just remember that you can't put the pieces down and pick them back up. Also notice they're not overlapped. The newsprint needs to be kind of side by side in places, but overlapping doesn't work as well. So once I've laid them down, then I'm going to take the plastic wrap and I'm going to put it over my sheet of clay and I'm going to roll it down. Now, you'll notice in a minute that not all the pieces really wanted to stick. So I took a rib and you'll see me work on the back of the newsprint to force it to stick. This will help you, and it's a little hint that you can use. It's easier for older kids instead of younger kids, but it may help you on these more complex pieces. But you have to pick your battles. Sometimes when you remove them and there's a little bit of a skip, I just leave it because it's going to be okay in the final product, or I cover it up with another shape later. So I'm going to go here and you'll see where this last little end just didn't want to stick. So I'm going to take the scraper and just rub on the back of the newsprint and see if I can get it to stick. Chances are it will, but again, if it doesn't, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Even if it's a fairly large piece, you could overlap it with one of your other pieces of paper and the casting slip. So we're going to remove our last pieces. Now we're going to take our slab and we're going to cut it slightly larger than our paper plate. You don't want to cut it the exact size, maybe about a ½ inch larger, because when you put the clay in, the clay will want to pull into the paper plate and you'll lose some of the area around it. Now, if you're working with younger kids and that's difficult for them, skip it. Just have them cut it the same size of the paper plate. You'll be fine. For older kids, I cut it a little bigger because it gives them a margin of error that they can come back and do some trimming if they need to in the final product. So we're going to remove that. We're going to take our paper plate. Now I'm going to take a little piece of plastic and I'm going to run the plastic, just press with my finger around the edge. It's a lot easier to clean this edge when the clay is flat than when you make your project and then have to clean the edge. So we're going to go around it and make sure that all that's clean. Now I could have left the plastic on the top before I'd taken it off for this video. You can do that. So now I'm going to take the slab and put it in the first plate and try to get it centered up. I'll just kind of feel around it with my fingers and I'm trying to get it all centered up. Then I'm going to press another plate on top, but I don't want to mess up that design that I've created. So I'm going to put some plastic wrap on it. Again, I could have left it on it from previously, or you can put a new piece on. And I'm going to take the second plate and press it down because you don't want to take your fingers and press this into the plate because you'll get these weird marks. So I'm going to take the second plate and I'm going to go around here and press this rim up so it doesn't make this weird little crease. I'm going to press it into there and I'm going to run my fingers around to make sure that it's indented into that clay plate. Then I remove the plate, remove the plastic, and voila. My project can stay right in that paper plate so that, and the kids can carry it right into the kiln room or leave it on their shelf for it to dry, and then you can put it in the kiln. Once it's fired, or once it's bisque fired, then you're ready to glaze it. We've used TPLs, which are a translucent glaze, Teacher's Palette Light, made by AMACO, and they're great over Underglaze. They're translucent. But I even bumped up the translucency by mixing the glaze 50-50 with AMACO F10 Clear. So I took, say, a ½ cup of the fire opal and a ½ cup of the clear, and I actually mixed it together. And what happened is it makes it even more translucent. It gives you another color because remember the clay is white. So it would have had a white background, but this way it has more of a orangey background to match those warm colors that we used in our design. Now, if you don't want to mix it 50-50, you don't have time, you could put 1 coat of the TPL, Teacher's Palette Light Fire Opal, or any of the colors, and then you could put a second coat of the F10 Clear, and that'll almost do the same thing, and you don't have to mix those glazes together. So we hope you've enjoyed the project, and we can't wait to see you at conference.
Thank you, Kathy. That was fantastic. I love how those turned out.
Thanks.
Yeah, those colors are really great, and I love how you worked from light to dark with the velvet underglazes and also used such bold colors. I wanted to show everybody, you can see behind me the velvet underglaze colors. over here. So these are the AMACO velvet underglazes. They come in a whole variety of colors. And if you can tell, some of them have clear glaze over half. That's why they might look darker and lighter. But the glazes that Kathy talked about that we used instead of just a clear gloss glaze are the Teacher's Palette light glazes that are over here. We've got 12 colors of translucent glazes that are low fire, they're food safe, they can be blended together or layered on top of each other to get different effects. Thing I want to show you is where to find the Teacher's Palette light glazes on the AMACO website. This is at amaco.com, and you can just go over to low fire glazes and scroll down to find the Teacher's Palette light series. So these are the colors I have shown here. The ones above them, Teacher's Palette glazes, are just colors that are more solid. There are more colors to choose from, but I wouldn't use those on top of underglazes. And over here, if you went to underglazes and velvets, you can see all the different colors of the velvet underglazes to choose from that Kathy used. So some of the other materials, items available to you are the presentation that Kathy showed. We've got it available in PowerPoint and Keynote via these links here that will be at the end of the presentation. So you can download them and modify them if you need to. They're available to you to use as you would like. So I've got links to the presentation, I'm sorry, to the glazes. And here we've got the supply list of everything that Kathy talked about so that you don't have to go back and try to take notes. We've got some additional resources to find more information to help you teach clay remotely to your students, including the AMACO distance learning resources, all the videos that are available through AMACO's YouTube channel and Instagram. We've got email right here that you can contact us if you'd like to set up a workshop for your school district. And the last thing I want to show you, I'm going to go right here to amacoclassroom.com, because this is an amazing resource that AMACO has created for you. And most of it was developed by Kathy, who you just saw do that wonderful presentation. So Kathy developed the Ceramics 1 and 2 curriculum for you to teach in your classroom. And these are all these presentation materials available at no charge for you. And you can also share them with your students who are working from home, where they can go in and watch the demonstrations and watch and follow along with all the different information that's available. Thank you all so much for joining us, and please do look up more of our lesson plans and learning resources all here at amacoclassroom.com.